to it. The offseason is going to be a big friggin' deal for a lot of teams in the NFL, especially the ones that have money. And only one more team in the NFL has more money right now, according to Over the Cap, than the New York Jets. The New York Jets have the number 2 pick and a lot of money to deal, to fill a lot of holes, because they have a lot of holes that they
don't have as many as you think they do.
Man,
there are players on this team. And now, granted, Jeremy, the Jet fan's a little biased, and I'm not even gonna lie and say I'm not. But the Jets, they are probably the most influential team in the offseason. And I say that because we don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
There's a possibility that the Jets wind up with Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson as their quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a path to anybody else.
No, that is the path.
I like how I'm blending into the background because I'm wearing a Jet shirt.
At least we're not on a green screen. Then we won't be able to see you at all.
Yeah, I would just be a floating Jarrell head. My son.
Those are the only 3 options at quarterback for the Jets. And
I believe so, yes.
They are kind of the linchpin here for everything. They could set the market on all of the free agents because, like I said, I believe they have a lot of holes to fill. And it all starts with that number 1 position, the quarterback position. Are you going to make the smart play, and are you going to, or I guess, play it safe and not spend a whole lot of money and keep Sam Darnold? Are you going to completely commit to developing a new quarterback in Zach Wilson? Or are you going to, bite the bullet and trade assets away for Deshaun Watson, who could make you relevant for a long time?
If you, and I've waffled on this a bunch of times, if you made me make a prediction here, I believe the starting quarterback next year of the New York Jets will be Deshaun Watson.
Nice. Finally,
I do. I think it's Deshaun Watson.
I think it is too.
I finally come around.
That's the splash move. That's the move.
It's the only move that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think the compensation is going to be as much as you think it will be. I think they'll give up 2. They'll give up Sam Darnold, and they'll give up both of Seattle's picks.
So the late first-round picks this year and next year.
And then you're done. It's over. And, basically...
That's a respectable haul.
Well, and the way that I would look at that is, so you got those 2 picks for Jamal Adams.
Yes.
So basically you would be giving up Sam Darnold, the 2nd pick in the draft, and Jamal Adams.
For Deshaun Watson. A 25-year-old quarterback who is widely considered to be one of the best 6 quarterbacks in the league. Every time I get pushback when I say he's a top 5 quarterback, there's no one that can say I don't think that he's outside the top 6.
It would be hard to. People say a lot of things. Kyrie Irving thinks the earth is flat, so don't ever doubt what people can say.
So everything hinges on that. So that would be a trade that would be handled before the draft. All of that comes into play. What else do you do in the draft? Or should we start with free agency?
With the Jets?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it starts with free agency because you're going to fill holes. You'll fill holes there.
Okay.
I said yesterday on the ESPN show we went position by position and broke down, or team by team and broke down who could get a franchise tag.
Yes.
Marcus May will get a franchise tag if he is not re-signed by the Jets. And I don't even think it's debatable. He was team MVP. He's going to be back on this team.
Yeah, the number's at about $10 million, $10.8 million, I think it was. That seems like a pretty respectable number for a guy who's been pretty good.
I agree. I have Marcus May as a top 10 free agent.
I mean,
this year.
on an open market, Marcus May might get, 14?
12 to 14.
Yeah.
Problem is this year, and I'll be honest with you, there's going to be some players that want to be tagged because they like their chances of going into the open market next year better than they do this year. Because May's going to be one of those guys that I look at as, in a normal year, you would get that. I don't know that you're getting that now. I don't know that he could command that right now.
I think
there are a lot of safeties on the market for one.
Yeah, I think what they obviously would like to do is to sign him to a long-term contract. 4 years at $12 million, 4 years for $48. Would you be happy with that?
I'd be all the way in for that. I mean, for me, that would be great.
Okay.
Now, whether or not they're going to do that. And one of the things that you do have to chalk up here is that Joe Douglas got burned last year. He had a rookie GM mistake. He overplayed his hand with Robbie Anderson and lost him for a pretty fair market deal. I don't think he's going to do that with Marcus May again. I think he will learn from his mistake. They'll either franchise or long-term deal May. Then they dive into the free agent waters. Here's what I can tell you definitively they're going to wind up with. They're going to end up with one of these pass rushers, whether it's Yannick Ngakoue or Bud Dupree. Shaq Barrett, I don't think is going to hit the open market.
No.
Von Miller, somebody like that. They will end up with one of those guys. The Jets haven't had a pass rusher in as long as I can remember. They do feel good about some of the young guys. There aren't a lot of corners. So I would say corner is probably a position you attack in the draft. I'll tell you another guy that I like for the Jets a lot is Carl Lawson from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
He fits that 4-3 scheme just so well. And that's what Rob Salah does. Other guys to look at for the Jets, Jaylen Brown, the linebacker from the Titans, he fits this scheme well. I think the thing you have to understand about Salah is there are not a lot of pieces on this defense that fit what he does. So the Henry Andersons, Avery Williamson's already gone. There are just not a lot of guys that fit this scheme. Jordan Jenkins is a guy that I like a lot, but he's not a 4-3 player. So I think he's going to end up walking, which is unfortunate because he's a talented player. This is going to be the big player in free agency. And the reason I say that is that they're going to have, if not the most money, the second most money once all the dust is settled. And this is trying to sell players on playing in New York as opposed to Jacksonville.
So the secondary is the number 2 target for you?
In the draft. There's not a lot that you could go get. I mean, in terms of corners, you could overpay for kid from the Rams. Alex Sander will tell me in a minute. I can't remember.
John Johnson?
No, the corner.
Oh, the Williams.
Is it Rodarius Williams?
I think so.
There's a kid in the draft and the kid from the Rams, and they have damn near the same name, and I can't keep them apart. The other thing that I promise you they will do is no matter who the quarterback is, they're going to sign one of these receivers.
Yes.
Whether it's Juju Smith-Schuster is the one that has always been linked to the Jets, but that's because of Sam Darnold. If Darnold's the quarterback, they will sign Juju Smith-Schuster. You mark my words. Remember, Darius Williams. Thank you.
Darius.
You mark my words. If Darnold is still the quarterback, Juju Smith-Schuster will be a Jet.
Okay.
They played together at USC. They're very good friends. They've always wanted to play together. Also, one of the reasons I thought Sam Darnold would be the next quarterback of the Steelers, but apparently Ben's coming back, so that's not going to happen.
Wide receiver, I think you got to have 2 wide receivers on this team.
I don't necessarily agree with you.
Because Jamison Crowder and, Denzel Mims is a great young piece. But Jamison Crowder, he's got a year left on that deal?
No,
2 years?
It's $10 million. He could be cut, though. I don't know how well he fits into LaFleur's system, and that scares me. LaFleur likes to use a lot of pre-snap motion. Curtis Samuel is a guy that fits the Jets epically well if they were to cut Jamison Crowder.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to do that. I think it's still too early to say that, especially when he's your best playmaker. One thing I will say, watch this for the Jets. Just remember I said this, and this is something that I've heard in passing. If one of these teams, let's say the Deshaun Watson thing doesn't work out. If one of these teams becomes infatuated with a quarterback, Carolina Panthers. I think I swallowed a bug like Tank did earlier.
Stop saying that.
Don't be shocked if the Jets trade down from 2 and take Kyle Pitts at 8. Just something that was floated to me. Just something I've heard.
But Chris Herndon.
I like Chris Herndon still has a spot. Kyle Pitts is a matchup nightmare, and Mike LaFleur really likes those.
Ryan Griffin does not.
Ryan Griffin, he'll be on the team too. He's a good blocker.
He is that.
The Jets have to wind up with 2 playmakers, and one. It would be great if one of them was a running back. A couple linemen, although I do think they actually have. I think the tackles are fine. I'm fine with Fan. I'm fine with Mekhi Becton.
Yes.
It's the interior you need to work on.
The guards have to be the priority.
And here's the thing. In that San Francisco system, that pulling zone blocking system, It's more important how agile you are, not how good of a blocker you are. Always remember that. So you can see the Jets make some total money moves for cheap guards. Pat Elflein, I think, could be one of the ones that starts for this team. I think the Jets could very easily be a playoff team next year.
So not necessarily.
And that's not me being a homer.
So not necessarily in the market for Joe Tooney.
They'll call. I don't think they'll pay it because you don't have to pay. I mean, it helps to have great guards. I don't think you're paying what Tooney wants. Tooney wants $16 million a year, which is insane for a guard in a system like this.
Right.
So I don't think they'll pay it. They might. They'll be in on everybody.
Right.
And when free agency cracks open on March 17th, you're going to hear the Jets involved on everybody. Number one thing you need to know, where does Joe Douglas go at midnight? Or at 4, I think the league year actually opens at 4 this year. When 4 o'clock rolls around and you're legally allowed to talk to players, where is Joe Douglas? That will tell you who his number one target is. And I don't know if it's Schuster. I don't know if it's, I mean, it could be a lot of guys. It could be a lot of guys.
Kenny Galladay.
Maybe. Wouldn't shock me.
Chris Godwin. All of those guys.
Godwin would shock me. Godwin's the one that would shock me.
And why is that? Just because of the scheme
fit? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see the scheme fit there. You have a very poor man's Chris Godwin right now in Jamison Crowder. So if you're going to cut him, and I don't understand why you would do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it will be one of the big outside receivers or a pass rusher.
Yeah, the Jets have to
if they fall in love with one of these pass rushers.
Yeah, the Jets have to be big spenders in the offseason, especially if they're going to go after the Deshaun Watson thing.
Well, I mean, and they will be because they have to be above the salary, the cap floor based on how much money they left on the table last year.
Right.
There's only one team in the NFL that left more money on the table in 2020 than the Jets did. So, I mean, this is not they have money.
But
they have to be spenders. They don't have a choice.
Right, but with $68 million to work with, plus there's more.
Their usable cap's actually way higher than that.
The usable cap?
Yeah, because they have about $19 million in guys that have no shot of being on this team in a year.
Yes.
Henry Anderson's $10 million off the top, and he has no prayer of being on this team.
There are a couple of guys on that team that could be very well cut. Ryan Griffin, I think, is one of them. I mean, that would save you $2 million.
Yeah, that's such a small, pithy thing. I mean, they're going to do a lot of that because.
But that's what I'm saying. Those little chunks are all going to add up, and here you go. They've got the gap between number one in money and number two in money is going to get a lot shorter because Jacksonville's sitting there in that 80 range, and the Jets very well could make the cuts to be able to get up to that. They'll be a player for everybody, and that's why I say I think they are the most important team in the NFL this offseason because they'll set the market on a lot of guys, and they have the most capital to be able to move. So I'm glad you're finally coming around to the
I just don't know where else he
Deshaun
goes.
Watson side.
I don't see how it's anybody else.
Right.
I don't see how Houston goes anywhere else. And it depends on how in love they fall with the quarterback. If they fall in love with a guy and want Zach Wilson at 2, then the Jets all of a sudden have the best offer on the market and it's not close.
Right.
Because if you're Houston, you want to be able to control your own destiny if you fall in love with one of these guys.